Hello and welcome to Rauta's take on modern, technical, progressive, experimental death metal. Or at least some of those things. Maybe not most technical, but at least progressive, experimental, and something of unusual kind is coming from Belfast, Northern Ireland. This is Pincer Consortium. Geminus Schism is the debut album, and this is a two-man band which you could basically consider some kind of a side project. I'll soon show you why, but first let's unbox this particular nice looking digipack. Everything here reeks of quality. I mean, whether we're talking about the carton quality here or the packaging itself, it looks sweet, it feels sweet, meaning sometimes you get just like, okay, this is way too thin paper and all, but this seems like some money has been put into it and feels nice. Comes with download code, and underneath you will see the CD tray image, under image, and whatever. I'll just slide this code back to where it belongs, more or less, so I won't be losing it. Snappity snap, says the jewel case, and then we'll take a look at the booklet, which my educated guesses actually features some lyrics, which is not common these days, especially when labels and sometimes bands doing self-financed don't do, because it's just cheaper to have less pages. And that's something like, okay, that's what kind of kills the last excuse to go for a physical product. If everything else is available on digital one, why would you even bother getting a physical copy? But when you get the extra material, like, say, this beautiful kind of a, I would say, scientific looking art, as well as the lyrics, liner notes, whatever. And here, finally, the lineup. This is where your money belongs to, because when you get the physical product, you get so much more than just songs streaming without having the interface to the band or the deeper meanings, whatever it might be. Now, as mentioned, this one is something that I would consider a little bit progressive and experimental death metal. And I'll try to explain that to you, but it's not really that easy. And why? Because when things are of more progressive or experimental nature, sometimes avant-garde-ish, which I wouldn't use here as a word, means that it's kind of hard to explain. It's not like old school death metal and everybody knows what it is. This goes beyond that. And that's why this is a little bit tricky pony to tackle, but also tricky pony to like. So, first start with the lineup. Something you need to know is that these two guys from Belfast have other band called Scout, which is an old as fuck band. So you could literally consider this a side project. And I don't think it would be like misleading or anything like that, because when you have basically the same lineup, but just different style, that kind of justifies it. And for words here on my, profile on Metal Archive series, it says wrong music genre, because here it says progressive death metal / deathcore. I gotta say I agree with the reporting guy, because deathcore is not really something that describes the music. Whoever put it here is, in my opinion, misleading you with the idea. But progressive death metal is very much on the top of this thing, and let's go with that. So this was founded in 2019, took a few singles before the actual album. And now you might wonder why there are no demos and whatnot. Well, these guys are experienced enough with Skald, so they probably know what they're doing, but I always say, go for the demos first, figure out what to do. Maybe they have, maybe they just didn't put it online because, experience all. So this one goes beyond almost 60 minutes. Well, not exactly, but 55 minutes, which means it's a kind of a lengthy and hard path to walk. Meaning, sometimes, unless you're really, really skilled and making great songs one after another, 55 minutes can be quite a hard thing to tackle, especially when you have lengthier tracks like here, the track number 3, track number 3 with 11 minutes and so, or even these 8-minute tracks. But then again, when we're talking about progressive death metal, well, there is more room for experimenting and going beyond the typical boundaries versus the more, say, simplistic, like old school death metal or death grind and so on. But this one goes places. Sometimes some of these ideas are like really? What the hell? Meaning this is kind of acquired taste of a thing. That is not necessarily good or bad thing, just neutral, but it's kind of worth mentioning because, as things when they are progressive, whatever style, means that some people are like, okay, it's too much. It's going too much to different places. It's experimenting too much, doing this and that too much, or sometimes too little. Too little meaning, like, if you just want your simplistic rock and roll take, death metal or otherwise, yeah, when you have too much going on, it's like, okay, and sometimes too little of that flowing grooviness or whatever. So Pincer Consortium is, definitely doing something else than their main project. It's kind of a, how would I say, a side project where you let your wilder ideas go about and see how they land. It's almost like giving shot to something that is happening already in your unconscious and letting those riffs and ideas come into play. Certainly it sounds like death metal. I mean, there's growly vocals and of course certain riffs which are kind of a traditional death metal, but really this is more than just a death metal thing. And like I said, it can go both ways. People who are more traditional, old school or modern style might find this just too weird or too much to handle. But then again, this still is focusing on the death metal territory and not like deathcore or whatever there might be. So really it depends on your personal preferences, how much you can take beyond the traditional takes and still like it. I noticed on Radio Music this was very, very highly reviewed already, like almost 4 out of 5 on average, which is really, really good. And that probably tells you a lot that when people who like this kind of stuff are going to value it, they really, really dig it. But about outside that box, then it gets trickier. For me personally, I find some parts just too much. And maybe sometimes it has a lot to do with the rather lengthier tracks. But that is my problem. That is something that I often keep saying when, songs overextend their stay. So don't necessarily agree with me or take my take with you, but rather give this album a listen. I find this interesting because it's mostly like unlike others. And that really can go as well both ways. Some people like when music is really, really original and not sounding like the same. But then again, there's always this risk when that becomes the first priority to sound unique. You might, I don't know, just be too much of a mutant for some people to like. Personally, I will think this, or I'm already thinking this. Pincer Consortium will find its way later on. This is still a little bit like some kind of a, not alpha model maybe, but a beta testing phase, what will be later on, meaning more focused, more punchier, more impactful songwriting. Now it's a little bit hit and miss for my taste, but like I said, mileage may vary and different strokes for different folks. Now, if I got you interested with the given genre or ways how this album is or the band is presenting themselves, of course, go take a look. Links are provided in the description box. But if you didn't like, well, at least you know this might be too tricky a pony to handle. It's a pony with 5 legs and 2 tails, which should tell you a lot. But it's pony still, nonetheless, meaning death metal. Now, off you go. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you find this band fascinating, even if it's not totally your cup of tea and all. But off we go, and let's keep our eyes peeled for a future what these two guys coming from Belfast will bring us. So, see you with more reviews coming your way. Take care.